Alexander and some of Hercules, of Hector and Lysander, and such great names as these. But of all...
Hello and welcome to today's Battlemech Quick View. We're going to be looking at the Cyclops today, which is one of those command assault mech which gets a lot of publicity and a lot of flack because of perceived and not so perceived deficiencies in the model and in its capabilities. Honestly, it's never my first pick if I were to look at assault mechs. There's better things you could probably invest your money in than a Cyclops. But if you start looking around, sometimes the Cyclops is what you actually need. The Cyclops really began its life as a late Star League command mech, really as the Star League Defense Force and the whole apparatus of the Star League was kind of starting to fall apart. The most important bit of it was the Tacticon B2000 battle computer, which was included in it. With it, a commander could easily control and see what his entire brigade was doing on the battlefield. Most battle mechs, you can see like what your lance looks like, what your lance details are. But with the Tacticon B2000, you can see the whole thing, which is pretty useful. But when you're on the front line, not always the best thing. To be honest, I really don't think it's the smartest thing to do ever to have a single battle mech become the linchpin of your entire command structure, especially not a battle mech setup just like the Cyclops, which is lackluster in a few different ways. Another issue the Cyclops had is that it fell to the common blunder of the start of the Succession War, as the Rimworld Republic was taking over the Terran hegemony at the start of the Emeris Civil War. They basically destroyed the factory building the Cyclops and all the advanced equipment for the Cyclops on the planet of Kaf. This led to most of the Cyclops being used during the Succession War to be pale imitations of the real product. Most of them didn't have that Tacticon battle computer. They only had what was available at the time when they were refit or repaired. As far as spare parts and other things go, most of them had to be manufactured and redone rather than mass-produced. The factories on CAF were never fully rebuilt, but they were producing what they could. Logistically, this whole thing was a bit of a nightmare. Another bit of the issue is that the head armor is pretty good from the side and the rear, but the front of the Cyclops, well, is what gives it its name. It's basically a big glass bubble, which was linked to that Tacticon computer originally to be able to give you all that full view detail. It's a bit fragile because of that and makes it a little bit dangerous for the pilot. The ejection seat as well is not the best on the market because of how the head is set up. A lot of pilots trying to fix the problem of the glass bubble put additional buffer and things around the head, which caused more issues. So what is a Cyclops? Well, the most common model you will see would be the CP10Z, which I often call the fighting one, which is made to get in the front and fight with the rest of its lance. The problems start at that point, though. It only is protected by 10 tons of regular armor that's comparable to a Hunchback, which is 40 tons lighter. And at 90 tons, to be able to get a speed of about 65 kilometers per hour, it needs a fairly huge Hermes 360. That's actually weighing more than a third of the mech's weight. So it is fast and agile for a mech of its size, but that doesn't mean that it's more survivable because unfortunately you're still too slow to really be able to avoid most things coming your way. You're also set up to get into melee range with people. What you have is a Zeus 36 AC-20. It doesn't jam compared to the Pontiac, which is fairly common on things like the Victor. And you have 4 tons of ammo, so you can shoot it for a long time. Problem is, you need to be able to survive to be able to shoot it. On the other side, you've got a 10 rack of LRMs with only 1 ton of ammo. You've got a 4 rack of SRM in the center torso, and each of the arm has a medium built in. It does have hands, so it can be used for construction. It can be used punching. It can be used for moving around, so it's not a bad thing at that point. And it's kept somewhat cool, let's say, with 12 regular heat sinks. What you get in the end is a Hunchback that's 3 times the price, that's got an extra few missile launchers and 1 heat sink less. Without the fancy targeting computer and the battle computer in it, honestly, the Cyclops with this particular configuration is not worth your time. But is there something even worse? Well, actually, there is. The CP10HQ, the command version of the Cyclops, replaces the AC-20 with a collapsible command module. That whole thing can be dismounted in about 10 minutes, and you'll have a full-on HQ that you can move around. It's freakishly huge, it's poorly armored, it's almost unarmed as an assault mech, because at that point you'll have an SRM-4, an LRM-10, and 2 medium lasers to defend yourself with. You will be a primary target as soon as you show up, because everybody that sees a CP10HQ will know that this is a primary target. Honestly, you can get a mobile HQ for maybe 1/10 of the price. There's even ICE versions with a regular good old, I think it's a V12 or something in them. They work just fine for mobile HQ purposes. Just don't waste your money on a HQ Cyclops and get yourself a mobile HQ instead. So for the final Succession War era version of the Cyclops, we're looking at the CP10Q, which is the actually not terrible one. Because if you want to keep your mobile HQ alive, the best thing to do is to actually stick armor on it and keep it out of fights. This version dropped in 2801, and it was fairly smart. You take out the AC-20, put another LRM-10 in, 3 more tons of LRM ammo, so you got 4 tons of LRM ammo, a backup medium laser. Some people even stick it in the back. I've seen some refits in that mode. And you add 7 tons of armor for 17 full tons of armor. You even get 2 more heat sinks to keep you cool. This is a much smarter design. Maybe I would have gone with larger racks of LRM and maybe a little bit less armor. Honestly, here I'm not the one who designed this thing. I'm just the one who's repairing them and refitting them. And those are the ones you'll actually see a lot of people repair and refit because they're not going to be totaled at the end of an engagement. And if they have that Tactron system in them, they are perfect as a command machine. The clan invasion and the rebirth of modern technology brought us the entire 11 series of Cyclops. And I will be honest, the vast majority of them, the only real difference is that you swap the AC-20 for a Gauss rifle. Makes the Cyclops a better sniper and it makes it more survivable just because it stays out of fights, which is not a bad idea. There are a whole lot of different versions, including one with a pair of Gauss rifle. There's a version with all sorts of funky things. And there's one that features a fancy C3 master computer, which is combined with a Tactron to actually give you full control of an entire battle group. At that point, it's reasonable. It's not the best mech around, but it will do what it needs to do, basically. The actual manufacturing of Cyclops restarted around 3058 as Grumium had the plans of the darn thing and the factories to actually build them. So they started actually doing that for the second Star League as they were getting ready for Operation Bulldog and all that fun stuff. They went with some smart ideas there. They put in an endo steel chassis that saves you about 4.5 tons. You get 15 tons of the fancy ferrofibrous alloy. You put cases in order to protect the ammo from exploding and killing the pilot. All very smart improvement on a command mech. The Gauss rifle is still there. You still get the 10 rack LRM. The medium lasers are replaced with ER versions. You get a little bit more EAT out of them, but just enough increased range that it's worth it. And a Streak 4 rack, which is always a safe bet as it makes the missile tracking on those SRM almost perfect. They don't shoot when they would not actually hit. At that point, it's actually a very decent mid-range command unit. Something that you could put in a whole lot of situation and actually come out alive. Grumium is still around, but now they work for the Ghost Bear Dominion. So they did rebuild the Cyclops to clan standard. Really, here, it's nothing really new under the sun. It's got a clan grade Gauss rifle, a Streak 10 rack, so you can't shoot indirectly, but as with the Streak 4 SRM, it's always going to hit if it shoots, and a pair of clan grade ER medium lasers. The whole system is protected by case 2, so you've got even more security. You sacrifice a bit of the top speed. You go to 50 kilometers per hour because what you do is you put Arden armor on top of an endoskeleton. And what you have with that Arden armor is almost 20 tons of it. 20 tons of armor on a command mech is what you actually want to see. That thing is very, very hard to kill. The Cyclops is one of those crazy designs that never really filled the necessary role properly. Honestly, I would take an Atlas before a Cyclops 100% of the time. And they're about at the same price range. But it's one of those designs that's been seen throughout the inner sphere almost forever because it actually is available. The renowned Ensign Rough Riders have been using them as command mechs and were piloted by, well, their best, literally their unit army commander. When you get some of the modern models, you can no longer ignore them or quickly primary them to take them out. You have to be careful. They'll have that Gauss rifle that can easily decapitate a mech. So you do have to plan a little bit differently. And that new Cyclops C is probably going to make some people's head explode in more ways than one. So I hope you guys have a very nice rest of your day, and I thank you for listening to me for so long, and I will see you guys later.